Vincent van Gogh once said, "What would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything?" This is the Producers Lounge podcast, the best podcast online for tips and tricks on producing great film, television, and web content. Welcome back for Season 3, Episode 21, hosted and produced by greaterandgrander.com. On this week's episode, we're chatting with Deborah Todd, who has worked on television series, video games, and even old-school CD-ROM games, including Pink Panther, Blue's Clues, Mini Monos, Curious George, and many more. We discuss how having a supportive mentor can make or break your career, breaking into video game writing, becoming a leader in science content as well as transmedia children's content, what to do when your boss tells you they don't want to deal with your agent, how to be protective of precious IP, balancing a Hollywood career while living outside Hollywood, and regrets about the path not taken. Deborah moved from Indiana to Florida before finally moving to California and landing a job writing for Hanna-Barbera, and transferred her PR writing skills over to writing for children's programming and video games in a burgeoning industry. She had to wear many hats at the beginning of her career and eventually joined the executive board of the Girls STEAM Institute to help change the world. Here now is my conversation with Deborah Todd.
Oh, this is actually from, okay, so see, I got these two things mixed up. Okay, the Van Gogh quote is, "I know nothing with any certainty, but the sight of stars makes me dream." I love Van Gogh. I do.
Oh, I love, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I actually, I love Van Gogh too. And also I just came back from Paris and I went, I finally indulged myself saying, fuck COVID. I'm going to go and I'm going to just go to Paris and live there for a month and be part of the artist community. And I saw the Musée d'Orsay, Van Gogh's Starry Night. So, yeah.
I'm so jealous. It's so wonderful. Lovely.
Yeah.
I used to go to Paris. I went every year for about 10 years for 3 weeks or so at a time. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Paris is my heart.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous.
Does it seem like it will never leave you?
No, it won't. And that first time I went was like 11 years ago at this point, and I was like, I fell in love with the place. It was just as all the movies had described it. So
you're so lucky. Isn't the Musée d'Orsay fabulous?
It is. It blew my mind. It actually, I think it was better than the Louvre in many ways. So yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah. It's just how lovely. This is, I think you mentioned last when we saw each other last time. This is from I got this in Paris.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, on the Ile Saint-Louis. This artist who lives there did this sort of compilation of the people who live in Paris or on the Ile Saint-Louis. And
oh my god.
So it was and it's looks like a cartoon. That's fun.
So how have you been? What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? Well, I took a little break and got a master's in science writing. So
oh wow.
I could integrate science more thoughtfully into my entertainment. So that was really fun. That's kind of been the fun thing.
That's really cool. Like, and can I ask where you decided to get your degree at, or any of those details? Like, what inspired you to do that? No.
Yeah, so I love science, and I've written a bunch of science-based stuff, and my work has covered everything in STEM from, science and technology and engineering and math. And so I decided, I heard about this program a long time ago, and it's always been in the back of my mind, like, I really want to do that. And so finally I did. And it's a science writing master's at Johns Hopkins.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's a great program. I really loved it. I met such kind and thoughtful and lovely and intelligent and interesting people in my program. So it was all the way around a great decision. It was really, really great. And so now I have that under my belt, and I can read journal articles and know how to get information out of them. The first one I read, I was like, I have no idea what this stuff means. It was bad. Read like 6 times, and I was looking up every other word, and I've gotten past that now, so I'm really good.
Oh, that's awesome. And you were able to do that remotely, or?
Part of it is remote, and then part of it is there at the school. So they have it's a low residency program. So your residency is at the end of the pretty much of the whole thing. So
Got it.
and that was really cool too. We got to go see some storks and I'm sorry, not storks, some cranes. I learned that sandhill cranes were great parents and whooping cranes are not. So sandhill cranes, they'll take the eggs from the whooping cranes and give them to the sandhill cranes to kind of, get them going. And once they're underway, they go back to the original parents. It was really fun, and got to go to NASA and lots of fabulous, cool things.
Oh, wow. Well, now you got to tell me about NASA, because you're burying the lead here. Like we saw these beautiful cranes and their eggs, and then we went to NASA this one time. But anyway, the cranes.
I know. Yeah, NASA was great. We got to go behind the scenes. One of the coolest things for me was like the gold I don't know, the reflective cloth that they have on the satellites and things.
Yes.
Whatever they send into space, well, it's really cold in space, or it's very hot, depending on what's hitting them and the radiation, and they have to protect that equipment, obviously. And they have a department that creates those coverings, and the woman who was in charge of that department had a design degree, and she, like clothing design. She was a clothing designer, and
Wow.
and so she takes essentially you're fitting something to something else, much like you would fit a dress or a suit to a human being. But she has to fit this fabric, and it's special fabric, and apparently it's very hard on the scissors and things. So they go through a lot of scissors, and it was fascinating. It was like they make these essentially they're blankets that are attached to the equipment, and it was very cool.
Oh, that's
That was
awesome.
cool. That was so cool. And there was a Nobel Prize winner there who spoke to us about the telescope the web that they were putting up, and so that was really fun.
That is awesome. That is so cool.
I like variety. What can I say?
Me too. Yeah. And it's fun. And I had to ask if you did the program remotely, because just something funny I've experienced is like I did something similar. I got a science and technology project manager certification, but I got it from the University of Adelaide. I did it online. And I've had so many interviews since then of people asking me, so what was it like to live in Australia? So
I guess I knew.
yeah.
Have you visited Australia?
No, not yet. No, I've been to parts of Southeast Asia and then parts of Europe, but never Australia. So
Well, that can be on your bucket list, right?
yeah. So where'd you grow up?
Um, Partly in Indiana, and then when I was in the sixth grade, my parents got tired of the cold weather and moved to Florida, as so many Northerners tend to do. And in sixth grade on, I lived in Florida until college, and then I went back to Indiana. And then after college, I immediately moved to California, and then that was the end of that.
That's so cool. And then out of that process of moving from place to place, when did you decide that you want to get involved in entertainment? Or was it video games specifically, or just general entertainment? Or
So that was it's like one of those silly things. Like I had an idea for a movie, and
Mhm.
it was just like I had an idea for a movie, and I wanted to see if I could write this movie because I thought it was a cool idea.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, don't be silly. I didn't know anybody in entertainment. I didn't have any connections at all. And then I found out that there was going to be a conference called Selling to Hollywood. And so
Oh.
I decided to sign up for the conference. I went back and forth. It's like, oh, don't be ridiculous. That little voice in your head that's like, oh, you don't be ridiculous. You can't do this. That's naysayers through your life that sort of hang around. And I decided to finally go for it because I knew if I didn't, I would regret it the rest of my life. So I went to the conference and I met a lot of amazing people from Hollywood.
Oh, where's
And
this
one
in
of,
Indiana? Or
no, this was in LA. Yeah.
uh-huh.
But this is after I had moved to California. So
Hmm.
um yeah, so I met these really great people. One of them was Mark Young, who was VP of development at Hanna-Barbera at the time.
Oh, wow.
And when I signed up for the whole conference because I wanted to get as much out of it as I could, and and I signed up for a one-on-one consultation, and my one-on-one consultation was with Mark Young, and so we sat there and talked. Yeah, and I mean, I didn't know what I was doing,
Hmm.
but we talked. He had given a presentation on animation writing, and so when we met, I said I would really love to do animation writing, and he told me that they had a program at Hanna-Barbera. You have to apply to get in, and the rules were if you missed a class or you were late for an assignment, don't come back. They're very serious about television deadlines. They have to be met. You can't just like fudge them.
Right.
So I decided I wanted to apply for that. So I applied, and I was the first person who lived outside of LA to get accepted into the program. And I met someone from Disney who came over, Kathy Fong-Yanetta, who was an executive at Disney and a friend of Mark's. And she came over and I met her. And Kathy and I later became good friends. I never worked for her, but we later became really good friends. And Mark left Hanna-Barbera and went to MGM to start up their Saturday morning animation program,
Uh-huh.
and with the Pink Panther. And he invited me to pitch to them.
Now,
So
when I'm going over these stories, I think it's always important to like go over the timeline, because I don't know if you experienced this, but when I hear these stories, when I was in film school and I heard these stories, it was always like, and then I went and I got in this program and I pitched, and then 2 weeks later I was, you're filling in the blanks. 2 weeks later, I'm pitching at MGM. How long had you been in LA before you went to the conference, and then how long was the program that you were enrolled in with Hanna-Barbera?
So I lived in Northern California, and the program was an 8-week program.
Got it.
It was once a week on Wednesday nights for 8 weeks. And so I flew down every Wednesday afternoon to LA
Wow.
for the program, and I would spend the night and then fly back Thursday morning. And it happened to be the LA riots happened during that time.
Oof.
And so one Wednesday I flew down. I checked at the airport because I had heard that there were things happening in LA. They were like, no, it's fine. And so I got on a plane, I flew down, and by the time I got down to the city had closed down. There were no more flights coming in. I went to get my rental car, and they were like, nope, we're not renting any cars. And I was like, I can't believe I'm stranded here. But I eventually talked them into renting me my car, and went to class. The instructor met me and said, Deb, class has been canceled. I'm not supposed to be here. There's a curfew. I've got to get back. Just wanted you to know. Be safe. So that was an interesting, like it was terrible what was happening in LA, and it just happened to fall in the middle of my program that I flew down, and it's like, wow, this is a different sort of thing. And I flew down from San Jose, so that's the airport, San Jose to Burbank.
If that's not a great producer story, like I convinced a car rental to give me a car in the riots. Wow.
Yep. You got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I did the program, and it ended up being 9 weeks because they had an extra week on, and after that, Mark left. Gosh, I'm just trying to think of the timeline here. So within 11 months of first seeing a script to taking the program with Hanna-Barbera to making my first sale, it was 11 months.
Oh, wow. And your first sale was the pitch to Mark at MGM, or?
It was a pitch to Mark at MGM. Yeah. So, Mark said, we're doing Pink Panther. Send me some pitches. And so I decided to go for, I sort of tend to be a little bit of an overachiever. When I did the Hanna-Barbera class, was you're supposed to do an 11-minute episode as your final cartoon of something as your final project. And I did the 22-minute instead of 11 because I'm going to just do the 11. And so I pitched, Mark said, send me some pitches. So I would send him like a dozen story ideas, a dozen pitches.
Oh, wow.
And he got back to me after I sent my first batch and said, gave me feedback on every single pitch, which was really helpful. Most of the time he said, we're already doing that. I don't see the, and then he'd go, this one I don't see this as a big one. So it would just be like that. So then I sent him another 10 or 12 and he got back to me and again, nothing. So this went on for a while and I ended up sending him about 60 pitches before he finally bought one. The 91, 92.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And
it was in 91. That was pretty sure. 91.
Got it. And what was the most important, like helpful feedback you got from him during that process of sending him 60 pitches?
I think first of all, the fact that he got back to me at all and took the time to go through each individual pitch. I mean, they were just springboards, right? They were just little, springboards of ideas. And he would go through them with me and ask me how I saw the story going. And because they were springboards, they weren't well thought out, treatments or anything. But that was a really helpful process to be able to come up with a lot of ideas and sort of stretch your, the creativity envelope and see what you can come up with within a world that already existed because it was for Pink Panther. We had certain expectations, although it was a new Pink Panther and he was speaking. So it was taking something that people knew and turning it into something that people didn't know, but it had to make them feel like they weren't being betrayed at all by the characters or the worlds or whatever. So that was all really helpful. And just spending the time with me. I think the most important thing was really the idea of perseverance and just keep being creative and keep coming up with things that could work. He kept saying, keep sending them to me. You're doing great. Some of these ideas we're already doing, and that's a really good sign because you're on the right track.
You understand the world.
Yeah. So that was cool.
That's really cool. And then while you were doing that, was this around the same time? I'm looking at your LinkedIn and I see around the same time maybe you were writing for video games. Was that what you were doing up in San Jose, or?
No. No, it's so I had at that time I had a young child. So watching cartoons was the thing that we did together regularly. Which was part of the reason why there was such an appeal of writing cartoons, because it was watching them, story and all of that I thought. I had previously had a career in public relations. And so that's where my career was. And I loved my job. I loved what I did. I loved doing PR. It was for nonprofits, and it was really satisfying. And I decided to give up something I loved for something that I thought I would love even more. And that was a really special thing to be able to do, because most people don't give up jobs they love with the possibility of something they're going to love more. So that was really special to be able to do that and have the support to do that.
Yeah, it's like what Joseph Campbell says, like follow your bliss, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you don't, you get one chance here. If you don't do it, I didn't want to live in a life of regret. So
wow.
So that's what I did.
Well, that's so cool. And then, so you're writing for Pink Panther at that time. When do you start to branch out into other shows and other mediums as well?
So I'd written for Pink Panther, and I had a meeting with a company that was doing, they were a developer. And that was right when sort of CD-ROMs were really sort of getting started. And I met with the guy who started the company, the president of the company. He was looking for some writers for a project that he had for the Discovery Channel, or a show that they had on the Learning Channel, which was Professor Iris. And they were going to do an interactive storybook for Professor Iris and the show, and he was looking for a writer for that. And so I met with him, along with another writer, and he took my writing samples and called me. This was on a Thursday or Friday, I think. He called me the following Monday and said he read my little stories that I had given him to his child, and all weekend the child kept asking him to read my stories again. So he said, I figured that you would be a really good choice for this. So that's how that happened. So I did that one, and it was great. I had a great relationship with him. He then hired a producer. They hadn't had a producer prior to that. I mean, it was right when CD-ROMs was starting. So I did a lot of that. I was producing, I was interfacing with Discovery, I was the SME on the topic. It was animals in Africa, and talking to them about some of the artwork that was incorrect because they were like African monkeys don't have prehensile tails, for example. So things like that. During the story, when he hired the producer, I had gotten an agent in the meantime. And the producer called me and said, okay, we're gonna start this project next week. So just wanted to connect with you and let you know. And I was like, great, can you call my agent and talk to them and figure out all the logistics? And he went ballistic.
Whoa.
Yeah. He said, I'm not working with agents. Agents are snakes. It was like, oh no, what am I gonna do? So I decided that I wasn't going to not use my agent. It was a big deal to have an agent, and it was important to me to have an agent.
Right.
And so we parted ways right then and there. And I was left thinking I was going to start a project in a few days, and now I had nothing. And I sat at my desk. I remember I sat at my desk for like 10 minutes, and I was really trying to figure out what to do. And I was angry, and what am I going to do now? And I thought, can I swear on this?
Go for it. It's the internet. You can say whatever you want.
I swear a lot. And I thought, fuck him. I'm going to do something even better. So I literally 10 minutes after I hung up, I picked up my phone and I called Humongous Entertainment, and Ron Gilbert answered. And I told him who I was and what I had done. And I had written cartoons for Pink Panther, and I had done this project for children. And I said, do you need a writer for anything? And he said, actually, I do. So he hired me like on the spot. And I ended up doing 3 projects for Humongous over my time writing kids games. But that was great. So I did that project for him. And then when that was finished, I did another one for him. And then my career sort of exploded. I started speaking a lot. Remember, I had been in PR.
Yes.
So I knew that I had to use my PR skills to help get my name out there. And so I spoke at conferences, and that was really helpful. And then I just started doing a whole lot of kid stuff. I did the first Curious George CD-ROM, which was super fun to do and very challenging. And then I did 101 Dalmatians for Disney. I ended up doing a Blue's Clues with Nickelodeon and Humongous again. And then I don't know, it just kind of, it was a lot. But I also did I did lots of different kinds of things. But the kids stuff is what got me started.
Got it. And it sounds like from an early stage, it was one of those things where you were thrown into a project and you had to wear many hats. And that's kind of how you moved and got so much knowledge from both writing and producing and visual art and all kinds of other stuff. Is that accurate or?
That's absolutely accurate. Yeah. I think the timing of it all, it was pretty close to the beginning of the games industry sort of exploding, and the teams were really small. And I think we had 5 people on our team, and I never met any of the other people. We had an artist and
Uh-huh.
me, and I think we had maybe 2 developers, and then the guy who owned the company. so, and I never, I mean, I met the guy who owned the company, obviously, but I never met the people who were working on the game. So I would write it. I would talk to them about problems that I saw with the art, or we go over the structure, and that was it. And in those days, when you wrote something, when you were done, you gave it to them, and you never heard from them again until the product was finished. So,
Hey everyone, quick break here. If you listen to the Producers Lounge podcast, you know I'm obsessed with how stories get made and who gets to make them. That's why I wrote Threads of Imagination, a book about collaborative storytelling and the art of building worlds together. Published by DSTL Arts nonprofit, which supports young BIPOC artists, the book pulls from my own personal history and even from my family history and the tradition of itinerant tribes telling stories around the campfire. Threads of Imagination is a guide to collaborative storytelling and how ideas grow, evolve, and become something bigger when people create together. Whether you're a filmmaker, writer, artist, or just someone who loves the process behind good stories, this book gives you practical tools, creative prompts, and real-world insights to elevate your craft. That's right, Threads of Imagination is full of exercises, behind-the-scenes lessons, and inspiration to help you create with purpose and community. If you're looking to jumpstart your next project or sharpen your storytelling instincts, this is the place to go. You can find Threads of Imagination wherever books are sold online. All right, back to the Producers Lounge podcast.
it's like, okay, bye, thanks.
Hey, that's really cool. Because I remember growing up on a lot of those CD-ROMs at the time. Like my dad was very, quick to get a computer at the early stages. And so like I grew up on a lot of those video games. So
Fun. That's fun. It is so fun to write. Curious George was especially fun. I met with the producer of Curious George. We spoke almost every day for 3 months before he hired me. The problem was, it was a Curious George obviously was books, right? Margaret
Mhm.
and H.A. Ray wrote these iconic children's books, and um, H.A. had passed already, but Margaret was very protective. Margaret was very protective of obviously of the IP, and she was really afraid, as most people were in the beginning of the games industry, that children would play games and stop reading. Um,
Mm.
so it was a struggle for him, um, just to keep her happy, and feeling comfortable that that was not going to be the case, that kids would still read. And one of the things that we did in the game was we created storybooks from the gameplay that the kids could print out after they played the game. So, they could go in and do a little bit, and there would be a Curious George storybook based on that portion of the game that they had played. So that was really super fun. And I got to write those books too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You were the first transmedia author. It was that's great.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun. Yeah, we had great meetings and great talks, and I think just being a partner in that,
Mhm.
for him, somebody he could talk to. And I mean, there's a whole team, obviously, of people who are working on this at Houghton Mifflin, but it was just a really special time. So I feel very honored.
And then I'm not sure where to go because I'm looking at, your resume and you've done a lot of really amazing stuff. Like you've been on the board of PGA, you've been on the board of WGA West. Um, you've done a lot, and I'm really kind of curious, like where did like, what was the most fun aspect of navigating the entertainment industry all those years?
The thing about the entertainment industry for me is
Mm-hmm.
that it's all fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all really fun. The people I've met in the entertainment industry have been amazing, fabulous people. You always hear stories outside of Hollywood about Hollywood, right? Oh, these Hollywood people. And it's just, I never found any of that to be actually true. I just met amazing people. They were having fun. They loved what they do. I don't know if it was especially in animation that that it's an anomaly, but even outside of animation, in the Writers Guild, you
Mm-hmm.
know, being in a community of writers is just, it's a fabulous experience, and it's such a gift. And to be able to feel like you found your home, of people who get you and understand you, and you get them and understand them. And um, I've had people who are not writers say, "Oh, you're weird because you're a writer." It's like, and like that's I don't find that to be true. Maybe I am. I don't know. But having writers who get how you care about language and how you care about story and how you care about characters and their development and all of that, it's just um it's fabulous. So having that community in the entertainment industry and Writers Guild was amazing. And I joined the New Media Caucus. I actually started an interactive writers caucus in Northern
Mm-hmm.
California,
Oh, wow.
and we did that for 3 years for the Writers Guild, and that was amazing. Bringing people in and helping them see what the Writers Guild could do, and see what they're doing, and that was amazing. And then joining the Producers Guild was really, really fun. Um, Again, wonderful people, and seeing that people who care about details and who care about, finding a way to make things happen, that's their job. And it's like, wow, this is so cool. So you feel like you have a connection with people when you understand them and they understand you, and it's all good. So I don't know. I just love it. I just love it all.
That's
I
really
don't even know if I answered your question. Did I answer?
No, that's great. Like, so let me ask you, you've strove to be in kind of a mentorship role, whether it was leading the WGA Video Game Writers Caucus, whether it was being on the PGA board. What advice would you give to people now who are interested in kids entertainment and want to get into that? Because the field has changed so much over the years.
I know the field has changed. I mean, I think the most important thing is you have to know you have to know your audience, and you have to know the properties. It's really important to take care of an IP, to
Mhm.
take care of a franchise if you're going to write for something that already exists. And so learning to understand what character bibles are and how to write them, and how to really get some depth on your characters, I think is really an important thing.
Mhm.
Um, and then just becoming an expert in the worlds that you want to write in. I think that's obviously that's super important. And then thinking outside the box when you're trying to come up with ways to do things in animation, especially, you've got standards and practices that are restrictive in many ways for children's entertainment, and for good reason. Um, so for me, thinking of those restrictions as a new way to free up creativity and do the kinds of things you want to do and tell the kinds of stories you want to tell within the limitations that you have. So you have to think of creative ways to do that, because the standard, stereotypical way that you might first think of isn't going to work. So just being willing to think outside the box and keep going. It's kind of like the producer thing, right? It's like,
Mhm.
how I got to figure this out. How can I make this happen? How can I make this work? And it's the same in a story. Um, so, and then I think just making connections with people who are doing what you want to do. That to me has always been a really big part of my career. as I mentioned to you earlier, I spoke at a lot of conferences.
Right.
Well, at those conferences, I met people who were doing really interesting, cool, fun things. And they were the interesting, cool, and fun things that I wanted to be doing. And I learned from them and I watched them and I, was able to see what worked for them. And so having those connections really helped me sort of navigate where I wanted to go. Like meeting Mark Young at my very first conference, that launched my career meeting that man.
Now, at that time, though, well, later on when you were speaking at conferences, if I can ask, were you still living in Northern California at that time?
Yeah, I lived in Northern California during the entirety of my reign in Hollywood.
And then, so like speaking at conferences, was that your way of kind of creative problem solving of getting out and networking, even though you weren't in the LA, circuit, you weren't in the bar club scene, as it were?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great way to network. And the thing that I found was that when people asked me where I lived, and I said I lived in, Marin County in Northern California, usually the response that I got was, "Oh God, I'd love to live there. I want to live there someday," because it's so beautiful. So I used that to my advantage and said, "Well, it's only an hour away by plane, so you could live there if you wanted." And just started a conversation with them sort of about that in a light and fun way. But I think that helped sort of diffuse the quote unquote problem of you don't live in Hollywood, you don't live in LA. That completely diffused it. So I never found it to be an issue. And then writing video games, a lot of the companies were, in Northern California, Humongous Virginia, Seattle. There were just they were kind of all over the place. So it never really seemed to be a problem.
You mentioned earlier about, being very protective of the IPs and dealing with, rightfully restrictive Bibles on various shows. What is an example of when you've kind of used your creative problem solving to take one of those limitations and turn it into a strength in terms of what a story you were writing?
So there was a story that had to do with cowboys and getting the cows into. There was a storm coming and they had to get the cows into the barn. And how do cowboys, get the cows? If they want to round up the cows, what do? They usually lasso them, right?
Right.
In standards and practices, you cannot lasso anything because standards and practices make sure that whatever you do in children's television, children cannot duplicate in real life because they could hurt someone or themselves. That's how the whole standards and practices got started, was protecting kids against. There was an episode of Scooby-Doo that had something to do with a rope and tying up somebody, I think, over a swing set. And a kid did that, tying somebody up. The kid did that over a swing set and hung themselves because they saw it on television.
Oh my God.
So that's how standards and practices got started. It was that incident that sparked that whole thing. So if you can't lasso a cow to get it to go into the barn, what can you do? So the result was the solution rather was you can lasso the air, and you can lasso the air really fast, and you can do it faster and faster and faster and faster, and you can do it close to the dirt. And if you do it like that really fast, you can create a twister. And when you create the twister can come and pick the cow up and move the cow into the barn. So that was the solution, right? There were this was one of the fun things about writing animation. Every universe has its own rules. Like in Pink Panther, for example, you can drop an anvil on the Pink Panther And Warner Bros., we've had lots of cartoons where you can drop anvils. Why can you do that? Because in real life, a kid can't pick up an anvil and drop it on something, right?
Oh, okay.
So in Pink Panther, I had a scene where a woman, Pink approaches this woman and scares her, and she reaches behind her and grabs a park bench that wasn't previously there, grabs a park bench and hits him over the head with it. So it's like, so like you can't hit him with your fist, but you can smack him with a park bench. Well, a kid couldn't do that in real life, so that was another way around that. And what else did it say? Oh, I know. So rules of the cartooniverse, that's a term, right? It's like every different animated world has its own rules, and those are called the rules of the cartooniverse. And so, for example, you can drop an anvil on somebody and you can flatten somebody in Pink Panther, but you cannot do that in Batman, right?
Yeah.
That cartooniverse, you can't flatten somebody with a park bench or an anvil or anything. So that's, and to me, that's part of the fun of it is understanding the rules of the cartooniverse, making sure that those are well known by everybody on the team, and then staying within that world. And that's partly what I took from animation into game design and game writing was understanding that there are worlds that have certain rules and making sure that everybody is aware of what those rules are for that particular world, and populating it with characters and a story that makes sense in that universe.
Got it.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, as far as like just like the important, part of like, what is the most important part of guiding an IP and guiding a story. Let me ask, this is the Producers Lounge podcast. We've talked a lot about writing. I'd love to hear when you feel you really transitioned into being a producer, and what is your finest accomplishment as working as a producer.
So I think producing has been scattered throughout my career. Starting with the very first thing that I did, when there wasn't a producer, and I sort of had to, by default, took on that role. And then I think sort of kind of throughout my career, there have just been times when, I was hired as a game designer for one project, for example, and there was a producer, and there was an executive producer and a producer. The executive producer was amazing, but was not in the day-to-day picture. The producer, however, was brand new, had never done video games before, had never produced before, and didn't really know what he was doing. And so the executive producer came to me and asked me if I would essentially walk him through everything. So that was an experience of, while I did not have a producer credit or a producer title, I was mentoring the producer on the things that he needed to do without him necessarily knowing that I was mentoring him. It was a tricky situation. It was not ideal.
And it makes sense that you say that he didn't know what he was doing, and it makes sense that you as a sorry, my editorializing, but it makes sense that you would have to step in and teach him the ropes. Yeah.
Because I had a lot of experience and had been in the industry. I mean, he had never done games before, ever. And I still to this day have no idea how he got the job that he was in. And he had no experience whatsoever in any of it. But that's okay, everybody starts someplace. And so and we have to help each other, right? So that's what he did. One of the projects that I produced on that is like one of my favorite all-time projects is was an MMOG for kids on sustainability. So we worked on this project for 3 years. They hired me they just hired me to work on the project for them. They were out of Australia. And I love these people. I still to this day love these people. They're all great friends of mine. We had a fabulous team. But I went in initially to help with the design and the writing, and I also took on producing roles within that project. There was an artist who was a young artist who was so talented. He was fabulous, and just meeting with him and helping, make sure that he got the characters right within the Bible that I had created, and that we could expand those characters to have relationships with each other and all of that. And then working with the developers, the programmers, and making sure that we were on schedule. There was an executive producer who was over me, who I absolutely adored as well. And so working as this really integrated team of people who really loved what we were doing and respected each other and loved the property, and creating this really fabulous thing. And we created a really fabulous thing. We ended up with over 1 million users when we launched at beta.
Oh, wow.
That was fabulous. And it was kids all over the world, and they loved playing the game. It was really, really fun.
Do you want to give a shout out to the name of that game, or?
That's Mini Monos, which is Spanish for little monkeys. And so we created these avatars that were monkeys. The NPCs were monkeys, and the player characters were monkeys, and there was a lot of integrative gameplay, the different parts of the game, and it was also a transmedia property. So we had a mobile game component that you could play outside of the MMOG, and then what you did in that would affect what you did in the MMOG. So that was really fun. And then we had also comics in a UK magazine for boys. So this was really, really fun. It was the best. They were the best. I love them.
That is awesome. That is so great. And now you're an executive board member of the Girls STEAM Institute. What are you doing with that organization?
So I love this organization. So we mentored girls in ages 13 to 18 in STEAM entrepreneurship. So we have challenges. We're having 2 this year. We usually have a challenge once a year where we bring girls together for a weekend and throw them together, and they have to create, essentially they create an app that solves a problem. So it's a digital solution to a problem in the world. And they get to choose what that is. We have a theme usually. They get to choose what that is and what they're going to develop. And the small teams of five girls per team. And they are so amazing. They're so amazing what they can do. These girls who have never met each other, and they're just fabulous. They come together and they work together and they support each other, and they learn how to, we teach them about SWOT analysis. So we learn about all that, the business aspect of it, and also how to make a difference, how to contribute. So it's a fabulous thing. So I mentor in that. We had one girl come in who's often some of the girls who come in are really shy. We had one girl who came in who was super shy. She came because I had invited Kate Edwards to be there, who was the head of the executive director of IGDA, International Game Developers Association. Rachel Bernstein was there, who's a producer at Google. And I had worked with Rachel on a super secret Googly project. and then there was me. So the 3 of us in the games industry, and this girl came in, and she came because there were games industry women there. And her mother brought her up and said, would you be willing to talk to her? And I was like, sure, of course. So I took her over to the table and we sat, Kate and Rachel and I. And this girl had on her own developed a whole bunch of games and just sort of put them out there quietly into the world. And she was just amazing. And she was so shy. And she, I think attending that event really blossomed and learned that she could do whatever she wanted to do. And so she eventually, when she applied to college, she got into MIT. And
Oh my God.
yeah, it was just so great. And she became one of a couple of years ago, she was one of the Forbes 30 under 30 in games. So,
Holy shit.
yeah,
That's
pretty exciting.
Yeah, you're changing the world. That's fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really great to see these girls. They're so inspiring. They're just so incredible. And we've had other girls who have come to our program and they all stay in touch. They stay in touch with us. We're there for them. If they need recommendations for college, we will do that for them, and we're just there for them. And we had another one of our girls just graduated from college and just got her first job at NASA. So that's cool. She's a JPL. So really showing these girls that STEAM, I mean, it's, the A is in there for arts because a lot of what we do is very creative. So showing them that they can do these things that often they're told they cannot. And we're there to support them and help them and bring them together and get them started on that journey of, wow, that was really interesting and fun and cool, and I can do that. So that's what we do. I love it.
That is awesome. If it sounds like a great organization, if anyone wants to donate to it, what's a website that they can go to and donate?
It's girlssteaminstitute.org. So just one S between girls and STEAM. So girlssteaminstitute.org.
Got it.
Thank you for asking.
Absolutely. If you could go back to, before the riots and give yourself some advice, what advice would you give yourself before starting on this journey?
I think it would be I think it would be write more cartoons. I love cartoon writing. And I have loved my career in games, and I wouldn't give it up for anything. So I would still want to have written a bunch of games, but also I think writing more cartoons because it's just really fun and the people are fun. And then I guess the other advice would be take advantage of the opportunities when they present themselves, because they won't always be there. So there have been just a few times when I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And looking back, it's like, oh, I should have done that.
Can I ask what those were? Or?
Yeah, I went to Australia. I went to New Zealand and met someone who was from Weta, and she invited me to go to Weta like that night, and I was really jet lagged, and I said no, like an idiot. So I never got to go see their facilities, and I feel like that really would have been special to be able to do. So if anybody from Weta is listening, I still might go. But yeah, and there was an event at the house of one of the presidents of the Producers Guild that I was kind of going back and forth. It's like, oh, I really wanted to go, but I was having some things I had to deal with at home, and I should have just said, you know what, these will still be here in 3 days, and I should have just gone, and I didn't, and that'll never come around again. So, just little things like that. But it's those connections that are the most important, right? That we make in our industry and with the people who are doing what we like to do. And So yeah, I think those would be my piece of advice.
Nice.
Take advantage of the opportunities and write more cartoons.
And that is Season 3, Episode 21 of the Producers Lounge podcast. Thank you to my guest, Deborah Todd, for joining us. You can find out more about her by checking out the show notes and subscribing to our YouTube channel at Greater Grander. You can also donate to the Girls STEAM Institute at www.girlsteaminstitute.org/give. Our intro and outro music today was Bass Walker, Film Noir by Kevin MacLeod. Our episode still image is by Ricardo Tomas on Greater and Grander. We'd love to hear from you, and you can check out this week's accompanying article on greaterandgrander.com entitled 14 Hanukkah Movie Ideas for Kids That Turn Culture into Cinematic Advocacy. Link in the show notes. You can stay up to date by following us on YouTube and social media at the handle Greater Grander, all one word. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube or wherever fine podcasts are found. And also, if you like what we do, share this podcast with a friend or group who you think will enjoy it. Join us next week for more cocktails and questions, and until then, keep producing dreams.